Hannah, you're the chairman of the board of Kiva, one of my passionate companies I'm passionate about. How did Kiva started?
Kiva was started by a young couple, Matt Flannery and Jessica Jackley, about 7 years ago. They were went to Stanford. They were students at Stanford and watched a very inspiring lecture by Muhammad Yunus on microfinance, and were so impassioned by it that they decided to go to Africa to see microfinance at work on the ground. And when they got there, what they were surprised to discover were the kind of resourceful and happy entrepreneurs that really weren't looking for charity or a handout. They just needed loans to fund their businesses, to grow their businesses, and they became convinced that if people back home could hear their stories, that they would want to make loans to them. And so they wrote home to friends and family and were quickly overwhelmed with people sending in money to make these loans. And that was really the beginning of it.
Yeah, but instead of just being totally overwhelmed, they made a platform so that other people could connect to entrepreneurs everywhere. And now we're 7 years later, how is Kiva doing?
So after Matt and Jessica came back home to San Francisco, Matt sat down. He was an engineer at TiVo, and he sat down and said, I got to figure out how to build a website to put these loans online so we can start to scale this. And that was really the beginning of it. 7 years later, we just reached our millionth entrepreneur 2 months ago, and we have made about $500 million in loans. Our entrepreneurs are across 68 countries, and our lenders span 220 countries. And our hope is to reach $1 billion in loans in the next 2 to 3 years. We have begun piloting making loans over the mobile phone, which allows us to reach entrepreneurs even more directly. And our vision is really about giving these entrepreneurs in the remotest parts of the world a digital footprint, the way that the rest of us have access to, so that they can participate in the digital ecosystem.
Yeah. One of the things nobody really understands, or which is amazing, that a large percentage of the loans have been paid back. What is the average payback loan?
So the repayment rate has held at about 99%.
Yeah, that's much more than at normal banks. How come?
So I think one of the really profound discoveries of microfinance and microlending, and something that we've worked hard to sort of prove at scale, is that these populations, that the poor are credit worthy indeed. And we have worked hard with our partners in the field to develop a qualification process. We call it character-based lending, sort of the notion of banks qualifying you for a loan based on your credit score doesn't take into consideration a person's character. And so there are a lot of other factors that one can look at in determining whether someone has the ability to repay a loan. And we look at those things, that we've sort of kind of honed and evolved that model over the years.
Yep. Now, 500 million is a large amount of money, but it is a drop in a bucket compared to the billions of people who are out there. How did you influence the other, fundraising societies? Have you a white label Kiva or something like that? Do you expand? Can you infiltrate into other organizations and make them change?
So I think one of the things that I think Kiva is always inspiring to me to see is the, letting 1,000 flowers bloom, and seeing how Kiva has been a source of inspiration and the model working at scale to so many social entrepreneurs around the world. And this idea of crowdfunding, which was something that no one really had heard of, understood, is a very something that now is understood as a sector that's being applied in all different areas. Whether it's Kickstarter and Indiegogo for creative projects, or companies or organizations like Vitana doing education loans. So this notion of peer-to-peer lending and crowdfunding and crowd lending has become its own sector, where you have many, many companies coming online and starting to see the power of that grassroots peer-to-peer way of democratizing access to capital.
Yeah. Good luck getting to 5 billion, because that's where you will be in 5 years.
Thank you. That's what keeps us up at night, is how to reach the 3-4 billion people who don't have access to capital. So we need all the luck we can get. Thank you very much.